Right, first up, please welcome Breaking Bad actors.
Good afternoon, and it's not an acting audition that I'm here for. I'm Rob, this is Raj and Peter, and we're the Breaking Bad actors team. We have 5 participant companies from, I think, 7 countries, so a very international, diverse team. You all saw the video earlier, and I'd say some of you may have had a tear in your eye, the impact that financial crime has on people. We've picked a use case, authorized push payment fraud, or social engineering fraud, as some people know it, that has real impacts on people. There are a lot of organizations working on it today, but we think there's a lot more that we can do. Here in the UK, it's a massive problem. It's £360 million of impact on the people that live here. And generally, they're very vulnerable people, unemployed, elderly, lower paid, whatever. And it causes untold downstream damage as well. 2 real problems that stop us interdicting this is the inability to share intelligence between organizations and the speed with which we're able to get that information to where we need it. And this is what we've been looking at, how to fix speed and information and do it in a way that is privacy preserving so we're not compromising any legal process along the way. So the simple use case that we identified was the arbitrage that happens when an authorized push payment happens, when you see an old person who may make a payment, they think they're sending it to somebody, but the account number has been changed. They don't recognize the number, they recognize the name, whereas the bank recognizes the number and sends it on to some other place. This could be easily solved if you could match the name to the number in the destination institution, and the destination institution send a reply back to say, those 2 things don't match, there's a problem here. So this is what we set out to address. Using privacy-enhancing technologies to query the destination bank about the name and the number on a particular account. We use a thing called secure multi-party computation. And Nigel gave you a very, very detailed explanation of what secure multi-party computation does. It essentially enables multiple parties to compute a result without disclosing the inputs to that result that are needed to create it. It's a bit of cryptographic magic that takes a long time to explain. It took me weeks to really get my head around it. And we do that by creating a variety of taxonomies, really, that allow us to derive behavioral intelligence or life patterns, stuff that looks weird, not normal, and use that to create the computation that tells us something is not right. So let's illustrate this with an example. So here we have Jean. She's recently widowed, and she's been essentially duped into paying for an insurance product that she probably didn't need, but managed to, unfortunately, come into contact with a dubious salesman. She got an invoice in the post, paid it, because she recognized the name on the invoice. Royal Insurance Limited looked like a genuine institution. She recognized it. But the bank account on that invoice was not Royal Insurance's. So we were trying to match this up. She never got her policy, and when she realized she hadn't got it, she went to the bank to get them to investigate. And lo and behold, the money was gone. It was never coming back. So what happens today? She fills in her remittance, makes the payment. Everything looks perfectly in order. The bank may look at her life pattern and say, this big payment to an insurance company might be a little bit odd, so we'll maybe give it a little sort of question mark there. Maybe she's a vulnerable person because she's old or whatever, we'll give it another question mark there. But generally, it'll just flow through because the majority looks fine. And this is where we come in. So we've created PREXA, pre-execution alerting. So before you send any money, you query the destination bank about all the information that you have. Does the name on the destination account match the number for the destination account? And we do that using secure multi-party computation. The result that comes back is no, does not match. We will immediately stop the payment, notify the customer, tell them there's something wrong. the beneficiary gets notified there's something wrong. They can now kick off an investigation and start to look at the life pattern associated with this account. Does it have weird, unusual patterns that need to be investigated? Yes. Red risk, account frozen, SAR filed. And here we have a demo. This is what we've built. So the first screen that we show you is a list of all of the participant organizations that we screened. So these are all the banks. And the one at the top is law enforcement or regulator. The one that's on the screen is the transaction that we identified from Jean to the bank. And you can see, based on the attributes that we tested, the behaviors, everything was unusual except the login, because that was okay. So we stopped it. And you can see the source bank coming to the destination bank with the 2 dots, and the red indicating this is a problem transaction. If we look at the sender bank now, sorry, the receiving bank, I beg your pardon, the receiving bank, you can see that transaction number 5, which was the last one into the account, has been stopped. But prior to that, there were 4 other transactions. The yellow ones were all marked dubious because that information came from the other bank through the privacy-enhancing communication channel, and the one went out, meaning the crook had taken the money out of the funds through something that looked perfectly normal. This looks weird in terms of the overall pattern. And so given the insight that you've been able to get from the communication process among all the banks, you would probably freeze this account. So, in summary, if we just switch back. So the benefits for the customers: we'll stop fraudulent payments before they leave. Customer gets notified there's an issue, they can fix it. But the happiest thing they'll ever get is, we haven't given your money away to a crook. Financial industry, no personal data gets shared by any of the financial institutions. This is really important. The only thing that gets shared is the insight you've derived from the knowledge that they already have. We'll help you reduce your false positives. We'll help you increase your real positives, which is really what you want to spend your time on. Don't waste your time. And it works across the whole banking system, retail, correspondent banking, and it will work internationally too. There will be collaboration requirements here, governance structures that will have to be put in place among the banks to create taxonomies and so on, but that is all doable. And then lastly, law enforcement. You get information really, really quickly. You get a total picture across all of the banks where dodgy transactions have been identified. Financial industry, in terms of deployment, we can deploy this roughly, the first iteration of it, in maybe 90 days, working closely with a team. So it's not hard to deploy, and it's low cost. So relatively easy to do. It's about getting your data into the right shape. So lastly, just remember Jean. We saved her money. The bank made her really happy. Law enforcement put a bad guy in jail. And that's what collaboration can do.
We might have to send the gong back, Matt. It's not the most imposing. Questions? Nigel?
Just doing a quality check on the name.
For this example, we just did a quality check on the name and the account number. That was it. But you could extend that to a whole bunch of more complicated things in terms of other life patterns, funds in, funds out, related parties, a whole ton of things. There was some examples that we put up on one of the slides there, just a small list, but there was a list of about 100 that came from.
Why would that be between the acquirer and the issuer?
Sorry, the question, do you mind speaking into microphone so those at the back can catch you?
Maybe Raj, you want to come?
Yeah, so I can see that, so if I'm the sending bank and the acquirer, why would I send other information? What other information could I possibly want to put into that with the acquiring bank, apart from the name?
The future for a lot of AML is the expected activity being the baseline. So the recipient bank would be able to see the behavior of their client, and if it's anomalous, and showing that information back to the sender.
Okay, we've got time for one more. Anyone?
In the front?
Down at the front, Georgine. No, go for it, please.
Thank you. That was a good example of how it works on a kind of single transaction by transaction vertical basis. What can you do if you join up the information from one transaction to another?
I'd really rather go with.
So on a multi-party basis, you can have 2, 3, 4, 10 parties contributing input collectively. So it's about all of them providing information together, which you can choose depending on the context that you're trying to conduct an investigation. So you can make it as complex or as simple as you choose. It's really, really useful or effective in that way.
Okay, thank you very much. That's Breaking Bad Actors. Please give them a hand. Thank you.